Today we will be showing you how to install a 12 by 16 wood traditional pavilion. However, they are also available in these sizes listed on your screen. The tools and accessories that are required in order for you to complete your installation will be laid out in your manual. Make sure to review those so that you have everything you need in order to complete the installation. Once you have located all the tools required in order to complete the installation, make sure that you are following all the local guidelines and regulations in order to complete the installation safely. You can start by unpacking the kit that we will provide for you. Make sure to locate all the necessary items in order to complete the installation. If for whatever reason there are any missing pieces, please contact us at the number listed on your screen. Now that you have located all of the items, we can start with post assembly. We recommend attaching your structure directly to a concrete pad or footers. Mark off the desired location for the structure placement that fits your outdoor area using the footprint of your structure. Standard sizes can be found in the assembly manual that will be provided for you in your kit. Locate the 4 posts and place them on a clean and flat surface. Note how the top of each post has 2 cutouts. The flat side should be facing in. Set the post in place with the lines that you made. Drill into the concrete using a hammer drill with a 1/2 inch by 6 inch drill bit. Fasten the posts using 1/2 inch anchor bolts through the post brackets. Once the anchor bolts are in place, make sure posts are level. This can be adjusted by loosening or tightening the anchor bolts. Slide a post skirt onto each post. Ensure the notches on the bottom of the post skirt line up with the bracket. Repeat this step for each post to complete post assembly. You can now move on to the post and header assembly section of the manual. Place one of the longer headers in position on the front posts. Attach the header to the post using 3.5 inch brown screws through all the pre-drilled holes. Leave the 2 outside holes empty for now. Finish fastening the header ends with 3.5 inch wood screws. Each end of the header gets 4 screws, 2 towed in from the top and 2 in from the bottom. Attach the header to the post using 3.5 inch brown screws through the rest of the pre-drilled holes. You can now also install the additional 2 brown screws that were left out on the previous header. Locate the brace sections and note that one side of the brace has exposed screws. That side should face inward. Place the brace section between the post and tight up against the header. Nudge into place using a rubber mallet if necessary. The brace section should be centered on the header above and will not be centered on the post. Fasten the brace to the post using 4 inch timberlock screws. Make sure to fill all the pre-drilled holes. Use 4 inch timberlock screws to fasten the brace to the header. You are now ready to move on to the roof plate assembly. Begin installing the roof plate by lifting one of the longer sides up first. Be sure to lift the roof plate over the header assembly, being careful not to damage the header assembly. Place the roof plate on top of the header assembly. Align the corner edge of the roof plate with the corner of the header assembly as shown in the manual. Measure the inside reveal on both ends and space them equally. Maintain proper alignment at the corners. Fasten the roof plate temporarily using one 3.5 inch brown screw at each end in the location shown in the manual. This is not pre-drilled. You can now install the adjacent roof plate. Line up the corners evenly, both vertically and horizontally. Fasten the corners together using 2 2.5 inch brown screws, one per side. Install the remaining roof plates using the previous steps. Fasten the roof plate to the header below using a 3/8 inch by 3.5 inch lag and a washer into every pre-drilled hole. Some larger pavilions will include longer lags for this step. You are now ready to move on to rafter assembly. Locate the 4 hip rafters and the ridge pole. An optional method is to start the screws in the pre-drilled holes before installing the rafters and ridge pole. Install the first double hip rafter. There are 2 left and 2 right rafters. Be sure to install them in the proper corners. Attach these with 2 2.5 inch brown screws through the pre-drilled holes. Insert a 1/2 inch by 4 inch bolt and washer. Use the washer and nut on the threaded end. Fasten the hip rafters together at the top using 2 3.5 inch brown screws per side. Note that more screws will be needed for a larger pavilion. Install the ridge pole in between the hip rafters. Make sure to align the top of the ridge pole with the outside edges of the hip rafters. Attach using 3.5-inch brown screws. You can now install the rafters using the marked locations on the roof plate. Fasten the rafters to the roof plates using 3.5-inch brown screws in from the sides and a 2.5-inch screw on the end. Tow in 3.5-inch brown screws at the top to fasten the rafters to the ridge pole. Fasten the hurricane brackets to the single rafter using 5 1.5-inch screws per bracket. You have now completed the rafter assembly. You are now ready to move on to the roof sheathing and felt assembly. You can now install the T&G roof boards. Fasten the T&G roof boards with 2-inch nails. Use 2 nails per rafter. If the roof boards are at all warped or bowed, make sure to pull them down into place with pressure so that the tongue is inserted tightly into the groove. Continue working up the roof, making sure that the tongue is firmly inserted into the groove. Although not provided, an alternative to nails is 2-inch screws. Continue this process until all roof boards have been installed. You can now install the roofing paper. Roll the roofing paper across the roof and attach with hammer tacker staples. You are now ready to move on to the final assembly. Locate and install the corner covers with 2 1/4-inch stainless steel screws. However, if your pavilion has 8x8 posts, you will need to use 3.5-inch brown screws for this step. Check for any scuffs or scratches that may have occurred during shipping or installation. You can cover these with the stain that we have provided for you.